Hi, I'm Samantha Anderson, Director of Communications for Newton Public Schools, and I'm here with Superintendent Van Rankin. And we, as usual, are going to go over last night's board meeting and just answer any questions you may have about the board meeting or just the district in general. And as always, if you do have questions, just make sure you leave them in the comment section. I will be monitoring some questions on our other pages since we are streaming it to our other school pages. So I'll be looking there as well. So first of all, there was a long continuation of the conversation on Summit Learning. There were certain things that were ready to move forward that the board decided to move forward with. Can you just let us know what the plan is right now?
Well, essentially, we're coming up with a plan of improvement for the remainder of this year, and then a more detailed plan for next year. I did slap what we were discussing in board docs. So if you want to pull down a copy of that, please feel free to go there to that meeting agenda, and you'll be able to find that in that section. And that's what was referred to during the course of our discussion last night. Essentially, between now and our next board meeting, we will have from the buildings, from both Santa Fe and Chisholm, some pretty defined terms or pretty defined parameters in which they are going to have some database targets for student progress between now and the end of the year. We're going to have more defined expectations for things like the use of data to drive instruction, expectations to set up workshops so that we're using that student data to make sure that we're meeting the needs of students, expectations for mentoring. I know we hear stories of students that aren't being been given their mentoring sessions as has been advertised. Also plan for social emotional learning. That wouldn't necessarily just deal with Summit, but we do know that there's a lot of stress associated sometimes with work in the platform, and everyone has their own different way of thinking about that or looking at that. For example, some students they are perfectionists to a level to where they can't leave any tasks undone, or it just provides a tremendous amount of stress for them. So, we want to give them some regulation strategies that might help them in that regard. Even some stuff within the platform, you can expand the lookout, for a week rather than looking at it the whole year, or for a couple of weeks, however that is. There's also those other students that, they are struggling with that being a little bit different sort of an educational learning experience. From that social emotional perspective, we want them to have the ability to understand, you were really good at the way things were, and you worked very hard in that regard. We just need you to be thinking about learning a little bit differently, because we really want to shift the focus to student learning rather than just task completion or getting great grades on the test. So one other big piece of this that's important is a plan for family engagement, to let the parents know, how to access the platform well, how grading works at a higher level. I think, sometimes that's really confusing for parents. For example, there'll be a focus within the plan from both of the buildings, either on project completion or on cognitive skill development. And the COG skills are the things that are evaluated within the projects in 3 of the core content areas. Math is a little bit different. So there'll be a plan in place about how that grading works, how parents can access the model to help their students, how they can reach out to staff or administrators for assistance, and things of that nature. We also, one of the things that we're going to do is we'll have a parent perception survey that we'll put out at the end of the year, that will deal with, your feelings about student learning in the situations that they are in Santa Fe. And they're also going to develop a parent focus group to allow for input. So you may be called by one of the buildings, or if you want to be involved in that parent focus group, reach out to that building administrator, give them a phone call, shoot them an email, just say you would have an interest in participating. We don't want just people on there that like the platform. We want to have a variety of views so that we can learn from one another on how to best help students. So There will also be regular reporting, but there's been regular reporting to the board at the second board meeting of every month in terms of student progress and stuff. So that'll continue. And then there'll be a summative review, the second or first meeting in April, first meeting in June, Then during the fall, there'll be another more extensive plan about how we can support students that will expand upon what we did in the first semester. So then there'll be a summative review in probably December, and then a decision will be made as to whether or not we continue with the platform, we make modifications, or we offer parent choice. So those are what the board had to consider last night. And I know that some folks are disappointed in that. I know some folks are happy with that. I know some folks are neutral. And so I think a comment that was made, and I made it last night as well, that the board was in kind of a no-win situation. At this point in the year, to make a change in the platform or in any sort of curriculum, but when you're going to do it for 4 curricular areas, it's a very difficult task. That's just not something you just go, you pick a resource off the shelf. You really need to spend a lot more time. So this will give us that opportunity to be able to do that if that decision is made, but it won't be until the 2022-23 school year if a change is made. Long discussion, great discussion. I will say your board members are really in this for the right reasons. They're trying to do the right thing for kids. They really, really are. I think they made a good decision last night. And we're not going to let you down, parents. We're not going to let you down. Or students.
And I did have a couple questions during the day. They were asking, I believe it was board member Edwards talked about data and looking at data.
Yeah,
and we had some people ask where you could see it. And real quick, it's actually also on board docs in the building reports, which is at the very bottom. It's number 7. And if you click on Chisholm's and Santa Fe's, you can see that information. So just so everybody knows, that's where they can see it.
Those should be also in the second board report of January and February as well.
Okay.
So that's where you'll find those building reports.
Okay. And we did have a question. The county announced that they would be ending their mask mandate. And someone was wondering if that would change what we do here at the school district.
At this point, no. We are going to continue to have our enforce our mask policy. That was a bit of a surprise that came out today. So we haven't even really had a lot of an opportunity to consider any of that. But, the pandemic is still very real. It's out there. Our measures that we have taken in terms of the mitigation strategies, which include the wearing of masks, have been successful. Fact is, right now, we've only got one or 2 cases. I'm going to look real quickly. Let's see, active, none there. And I think just 2 cases total, or 1 total case in the district. Yes, 1 total case in the district. So we're really, really happy that trend continues. We're always a little worried after a break, but we were worried after the Christmas break, but numbers actually continue to go down. So we think what we're doing is working in that regard. A lot of our staff are vaccinated and close to being fully vaccinated. So we not unhappy with where we're at with that. So that's a great question. I actually had a phone call about 20 minutes after that release was made from a staff member wanting to know if we were going to follow that or if what they heard was true. So there's a lot of districts across the state that are talking about, what kinds of changes they're going to make. So right now at this point in time, we are not making any changes. You're muted, Sam. That's okay.
Just to remind parents, we are kind of, believe it or not, getting ready to enroll for next year. So will you just let parents know when they can start enrolling?
I believe April 1st is the deadline, or not the deadline. That's the time that enrollment's going to take place or will open up. We also have kindergarten roundup scheduled for that date as well. And those kindergarten roundup is taking place in the buildings rather than a central location this year. So reach out to principals for that, if I remember correctly.
Yes, and real quick, as always, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments section. If I missed any, make sure you email them to me at info@usd373.org. We actually do have a 2 Facebook Lives related to enrollment in kindergarten roundup. The first will be this coming Monday at noon with Mrs. Bartell. She's a kindergarten teacher at Northridge, and we're just going to go over what you can expect at kindergarten roundup, you know, answer any questions you may have. They'll have a lot of information there, but even sometimes getting to kindergarten roundup can be new for families. So we just wanted to make sure we were able to answer all your questions. And then Tuesday at 4:30, we'll be having a Facebook Live with Chisholm to help incoming families with their enrollment as well. We did Newton High School a couple months ago, and then Chisholm went in to have a special enrollment Facebook Live, just in case you can't get your questions answered and you just want to tune in. So we do have a couple pretty exciting opportunities for our community to be able to just know more about what's going on. I think that's all the questions we have. Is there anything you'd like to add, Mr. Van Rankin?
The only other thing I kind of want to add is we're at that point. This is something that had we not had the pandemic, we would have started in the fall. But we're going to start engaging the community in some conversations about, you know, what you want from a Newton graduate. You know, what do you think we're doing well in the district and what kinds of things we can improve upon. So look for opportunities to participate in some sessions. I know we're going to have a special board meeting. I believe it is it's the third, I think, Monday, where board members are going to participate in a session. And their homework was to bring 2 individuals to this. And we're just going to kind of learn from one another to start gathering some anecdotal data to determine what you all want as a school community. And that won't just be open to parents, obviously. We have a lot of patrons in the community that maybe don't have kids in the school anymore or don't have kids in the school yet. So look for opportunities to get involved. We do want to learn from you what you want here in the Newton community for students as they progress through our school system. So I thought that would be if you get that opportunity, that's a fun time just to learn from others.
And then we did have one clarification question. Someone asked if they'd still have to wear masks on buses, and since we aren't changing anything right now, those would also stay in place.
That is accurate. That is correct.
All right. Well, as always, if you have any questions, like I said earlier, you can still email us at info@usd373.org. And thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Mr. Van Rankin, for being here. And it'll be 3 weeks until our next board meeting. So that's when we'll see you again. Have a great night.